Within just 2 years, Reverend Roy E. Davis was filling newspapers. You could read about his criminal court cases, civil lawsuits, revival meetings, church announcements and services, and even the Pentecostal church baseball team. When I thought about the prophet's early ministry, I never really thought about baseball. Some message churches forbid children from playing baseball. The team was pretty good too. Their victories were reported in the Louisville News. I started digging through every archive that I could find that described Roy Davis's Pentecostal church. In the early years, E.A. Seward was an elder. Eugene Seward would have worked closely with the prophet during this time. I learned that besides the prophet, George DeArc and C.E. Myers were also elders. I thought to myself, those names sound familiar. I remembered the 1936 deed to the Billy Branham Pentecostal Tabernacle. When the prophet's church was established, E.A. Seward and George DeArc were trustees. The men Roy Davis had appointed were also administrators of the prophet's church. I began to wonder how many other men involved with Davis were working with the prophet. Hope Brumbach, the prophet's first wife, was also involved. She led the devotional meetings for Roy Davis's church. Dan Davis, Roy Davis's brother, remained involved with Roy's operations, but not in Jeffersonville. In every article I could find listing Roy Davis's Pentecostal Tabernacle, Dan's name never appeared. Instead, Dan started his own church on Mechanic Street, just a few blocks from Roy Davis's church. Roy's other brother, Halbert Davis, migrated to Jeffersonville and became a leader in Roy's church. I found it terribly strange that Dan remained separate in Jeffersonville, competing against his brothers for congregants while working with Roy to fund his operations in Louisville. Roy Davis continued to grow and to expand his operations. He started a local radio broadcast to reach listeners in Kentucky and southern Indiana. He also created evangelists, both male and female, to spread his gospel. On May 6, 1933, Roy Davis announced an upcoming revival. It would be held in a tent under the direction of a noted evangelist. And just a few days later, the prophet started his services in a tent on Pratt Street, just a few blocks away from the two Davis churches in Jeffersonville.